Y'all ready to be history?
Get started.
Welcome.
Hi.
Hello, everyone.
To the Pro Audio Suite.
These guys are professional. They're motivated.
With Tech to the VO stars. George Whittam, founder of Source Elements. Robert Marshall, international audio engineer. Darren Robbo Robertson. And global voice. Andrew Peters. Thanks to Tribooth. Austrian Audio. Making passion heard. Source Elements. George the Tech Whittam. And Robbo and AP's international demos. To find out more about us, check theproaudiosuite.com.
Line up, ladies!
Here we go.
Welcome to another Pro Audio Suite. Thanks to Tribooth. Don't forget the code TRIPAP 200. That will get you $200 off your Tribooth. And Austrian Audio, making passion heard. Hoid? Hoid. Making passion hoid. Looking forward to their new CC8 coming soon, I think, the Supercardioid version.
Oh, I'm going to get to play with one very soon.
You will be, because are you going to AES or?
Yeah.
Nice.
I forgot completely, or I was just off the radar, the fact that they were doing it in Long Beach this year.
Yeah.
Which is an hour drive.
So you'll be there.
No problem.
Yeah.
No problem. And
Nice.
I've already been in contact with them, and we might get a little goodie bag. So fingers crossed.
Do love a goodie bag. Nice.
Fingers crossed.
Now, you're in a friend of yours' studio as we speak, and obviously no one can see this because this is audio, but I can see behind you with this really cool room with a beautiful diffuser in the background. So,
yeah.
How does that work in that room? Because it's, obviously diffusers are reliant on the size of the space if they're going to work properly.
Yeah, I don't remember if I got to hear the room much before the diffuser went up. Because so Rick, we're in a shed. It's a garden shed, a very highly well insulated garden shed, and it's a decent size. I'd say it's 3 by 2.5, 3 by 3.5, 4 meters. Maybe not that big, but decent size. And so Rick had an idea of what he wanted his studio to sound like from recording a fair amount of music and doing animation at commercial studios. So he didn't want it to be just another dead booth. So when it was all in, the acoustics were up, I guess he was going, it doesn't really have that sound I was going for. And apparently he hadn't put in the last element, which is the diffuser panel. And so behind me is a really nicely fabricated wood stained. I don't know what it is, but it's a nice stained wood quality looking panel, and it lays over top an acoustic absorber layer. So there's a diffuser over top of an absorber. So it's a hybrid, and it's interesting because it just livens up the room just a tad more than it would be otherwise. And again, I wish I had an opportunity to do some A/B tests, record before, after, and really listen to the room and hear what it does. But my understanding of diffusion, very non-scientific, is it makes a room sound a little larger without making it sound too lively or too reverberant. I don't know. What do you know about it?
It scatters the sound. So it's like a quadratic diffuser does it in one way. But in general, the idea is that sound hits it and doesn't bounce back in a predictable, like creating a node or a reflection, it hits it and scatters. And therefore you get some of the life of having reflective surface, but you don't get the downside, which is like a specific frequency that's being amplified or being reinforced by a reflection that bounces repeatedly back and forth. It scatters sound.
And in front of me is a big piece of glass. There's a large glass sliding patio door. So you're going to get some splash off of that glass. So whatever that bounces off that, it will just hit this diffuser and then scatter. So, yeah, and it works. It works really nicely. I mean, I'm speaking into a 416 at the moment. There's a U87 just to my left, and this is a room where you can, use nice mics, and they will sound nice, which is awesome.
It doesn't scatter everything, though, does it? Just going back on what you're saying, because it's going to absorb the low end, right?
Yeah.
It's going to and only diffuse the sort of mids and highs. Would that be right?
So it depends on how big the diffuser is.
Yeah, or how deep the diffuser is.
Right,
so
exactly.
Traditional quadratic diffusers, which I think the thing that's behind me maybe is akin to a quadratic diffuser.
I guess not really, kind of. It doesn't look like it so much. Carl put a similar diffuser at another country. And those are pretty shallow slats. Like, what are they, like maybe an inch or two thick? A quadratic diffuser, some of them are like 6 inches deep. And
Yes, right.
and they work on a different principle. The idea of a quadratic diffuser is sound goes into one of them and bounces out, and sound goes into the other one and bounces out, but they bounce out at a different time, and then they hit each other on the bounce out and scatter.
Right.
So,
yeah, there's so many kinds of diffusers. I mean, if you guys are curious, and if you're listening, you might be. Definitely look up diffusion, acoustic diffusers, and look at how they're made in the many different varieties and ways they're made. It's the most creative thing in a studio, acoustically, it seems to be in diffusion, for sure.
The simplest one is just a convex reflective surface.
Right, a curve that points out toward you.
Out.
Yeah, exactly.
You don't want it pointing in. That'll be like the exact opposite.
Yeah.
Like that'll
concave
focus
is
the
bad.
sound.
Convex is good.
So here's a question that I've always wondered about diffusers.
Yeah.
Would you only diffuse behind you? Would you ever have a reason where you would diffuse on side walls or a front wall? Would you only diffuse what's coming from behind you?
You would diffuse wherever sound is going to hit that you don't want it to reflect back in a predictable
But
way.
if you're spraying it out everywhere, aren't you spraying it out back into the mic?
It loses energy when it sprays out, right? It sprays out and it has its energy dispersed.
Yeah.
And it won't hit the microphone at especially a specific frequency at the same point.
Right.
Yeah. And this room has a very specific purpose, voiceover, right? So like you wouldn't mix in this room. I mean, you could, but you probably wouldn't want to because it's not symmetrical. So on the right side of me, the entire wall is dead. It's one massive absorber. And on my left, there's 2 windows on the wall and a single panel absorber between them to add dampen a little bit. But the room isn't acoustically symmetrical, right?
How deep is that absorption? Is it like an inch deep or 2 inches deep, or do you know how deep that stuff is?
All the wall absorbers that I can see look like to be roughly 2 inches thick.
Yeah, so they're big. They're sucking up the bass. So that diffuser behind you is also sitting 2 inches off the wall behind a big
it's
thick.
going to have the same. Yeah, so the panel behind me is about 2 inches thick, and then the diffuser, which is made of wood, which is roughly 2 inches deep, or maybe 1 3/4, is proud of that. It's over top
in front of it, yeah. And then it lets the sound in through the slats.
The thinner the diffuser is, the less the lower frequency it can control.
Correct.
So
the higher,
generally,
it diffuses
unless
higher.
it's a Fresnel-style diffuser, which is a whole nother crazy acoustical.
I don't even know what a Fresnel. What's a Fresnel style diffuser?
You know what a Fresnel lens looks like?
No.
It's spelled Fresnel. Literally, it's Fresnel, but it's pronounced Fresnel. So a Fresnel lens is the kind like you can see on a lighthouse, where there's a bright light in the middle, and then you'll see this lens that looks like concentric circles. Right? That's a Fresnel lens. And sometimes, those flexible book magnifiers you can get? It's like a bookmark.
Yeah.
Those are Fresnel lenses, right?
Okay.
They're just thin, but they still magnify, right? So they do that acoustically as well as with light. And so somebody came up with a Fresnel-style diffuser that can control much lower frequencies than its actual depth would imply. It's really crazy stuff.
This reminds me of someone who was doing a studio, and he was saying how, I've got stucco walls basically, so they're all diffuse, and someone who knew about acoustics was like, yeah, but no, like you are diffusing, like you think about little stucco bumps, and he's like, you are diffusing 20,000 hertz. You are not
it's
diffusing.
only controlling very high frequencies.
Exactly.
It's still better than a completely mirror finished flat surface, though.
True. Yeah, and the very high frequencies.
It's still scattering.
It's interesting with the studio. I can see why it's behind him because you've probably got computer monitors in front of you.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So you've got quite a few reflective surfaces immediately in front.
Just one monitor, but again, that large glass door is probably 2 meters behind the mic.
It's also opposite his speaker, which in a traditional studio, especially in a stereo context, like surround sound messes this up a bit, but with stereo, the diffuser was always in the back of the room. And so, the speakers would hit.
Now, I think I've heard anecdotally, I mean, I would say this happened at some point, but God knows when it happened and how long ago and who it was. But somewhere in the deep, dark cave of my brain, I remember working with a voice actor with a traditional smaller booth, maybe 4x6 range, somewhere in there, maybe slightly larger. And he had, if not on one side wall, maybe both side walls. Again, can't remember the details here, sorry, but he was using diffuser panels on each side or on one side. And then that really made the U87 sound much sweeter. It really sounded nice in that case. But I wish I wish I had a database of every booth I've heard and how it's laid out. But I do recall that was pleasing. It was kind of nice. Scientifically, it's hard to justify. I can't really back this up, but essentially it makes a small booth sound a little bit bigger.
Are you familiar with the tube traps?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I've not really used them much, but yeah.
One side is a diffuser and the other side is an absorber.
Like it's a semicircle, like a hemisphere?
It's a full circle.
Okay.
And half of it, one semicircle is absorption and the other semicircle is diffusion.
So you just sort of turn them around to get the effect
You
that
turn
want?
it the way you want. Yeah, and I think the secret weapon in those things is the diffuser. When you get the diffuser around a mic, it really neutralizes things but doesn't kill it in that boxy, tubey way.
I've seen like portable control rooms, like where people set up a control room and it's just tube traps. They make this huge array of them around, and it's pretty impressive. I've never heard one, but and I've been in a handful of studios that have tube traps or something akin. They may not be the real thing. I know I've seen fully carpeted ones that are carpeted all the way around.
They're carpeted all around, but they have
they are.
the carpeting. Inside the carpeting is different surfaces or things within.
I might be able to get my hands on a few of those. I should probably.
They are expensive and they are worth it.
Yeah, I might, because there was one of the agencies in LA closed up their doors, and they had those.
Grab them. I'll give you my address. And,
if they're not in a dumpster or in somebody else's house by now, I'll see if I can get my hands on them.
Those things are actually quite expensive, and the thing about them is that you got to have a booth with space because they sit on a stand and they just take up a lot of space. But if you have the space for them, they can really make a nice neutral sound. Like they just have an interesting thing about them.
That's just the irony of studio booths. The smaller the room, the smaller the volume of the room around you, the more effort you really have to put in to control the resonances or the room modes. There's the frequencies that ping pong, left, right, up, down, front, back. And so then that booth has to be even smaller because you have to shrink it. You have to add all this absorption, sometimes 4 or even 6 inches deep. And so it gets even smaller,
I heard a Chaotica is going to make the Chaotica iBooth.
No.
Right. Looking forward to that one. I've actually got a couple of Auralex panels on the stands, and one side is Auralex foam, and on the other side is the diffuser.
Same idea. Yeah, they give you both treatments, and then you just spin it around to what you want. Yeah.
Yeah. It's just one of those rainy day projects. I would love to have panels that are double-sided, and I could just flip them around, and put them up and listen to how they react. I have some random diffusion things that were made by Studio Bricks that they shipped as a demo to me. I have, what else do I have? I feel like I have a couple different things, but they're all, I don't know what they do. Because some of the diffusion panels that you see are literally nothing more than a sheet of thin veneer plywood with holes in it.
Well, those are a little bit more like what you have behind you, where they G Acoustics does that, an absorber with some
Acoustics, right? Yeah,
absorber, and that's just more of like a tunable, not completely dead thing. I've got RPGs in the back of my studio, which I lucked into when a studio got torn down. Because
are they the ones that look like blocks of wood, or that's maybe a skyline? That's something different, right?
No, the skyline's different from that. So you have the big squares, which are in the back of our studio downtown, which those are really popular and they look good. They're just like equal squares of different depths. And that's kind of like a pseudo quadratic one. And then you have, it might be quadratic actually, I shouldn't say pseudo. And then your classic RPG from the 80s, which are the big, long slats that some of them are like 8 inches deep and others are 3 inches deep. And they're usually about...
Are they long vertical?
They're long and vertical. They can either go up and down or sideways, depending on how you want to put them.
Yeah.
So I looked into those. And then the skylines just look like just a bunch of like 3-inch sort of square pieces of wood. And they're just all different heights.
And it's supposedly not random. There's a formula to it.
I guess so. Yeah, the skyline, the one that I have, is just plastic.
Yeah.
But I think Blackbird Studio is probably the biggest implementation of skyline type.
Oh yeah. Look up a picture of Blackbird Studios. Isn't it like all black too?
No, I think it's wood, but it looks like a Iron Maiden kind of like.
Yeah.
You were just gonna like.
It's crazy looking.
What, chains and leather?
Yeah, no, just like it's like if an Iron Maiden was a diffuser and it was going to close in on you and impale you. It's just like you walk into this room, you're like, what happens to me?
Mm-hmm.
Those diffusers you were talking about with the plywood with the holes drilled in it, George, the over foam, they've moved now, but Foxtel, when I used to go and freelance there, they had that, but that was it was hanging from the ceiling. They had used it as cloud. And I always wondered why you would diffuse up there. Like it wasn't particularly a high ceiling or anything like that. So I always wondered what it was about the room that they thought a diffuser as opposed to sort of just a regular cloud.
That's a good question. I don't know. I know the very first studio I did for SAG Foundation, the Donald Fontaine Lab version 1, it was sort of a grid of 2x2 absorbers and 2x2 diffusers. It was an RLX thing. They made these plastic injection molded diffusers. But yeah, I didn't know why, right? Because at that time, I didn't know that much about acoustic design. And so I was just going with what they did. It turned out that the room was much too lively and resonant. For voiceover, it might have been okay for music, but it was not dead enough. So we had to do a lot of additional treatment. I don't know what ceiling. It's funny. Do you guys have Chipotle restaurants in Australia?
They have excellent acoustic treatment.
They have some crazy stuff in Chipotle. Like a lot of them you'll walk in. Chipotle is a chain of like fast burritos.
Okay.
I'll take this burrito with these toppings.
I wish we did have it here. That sounds good.
Really fast.
It's good. Fast and it's good, decent quality and not expensive. And so you walk in and you'll be waiting in line on one side of the restaurant, and the entire wall on your left is a giant plywood panel or panels, all drilled with different size holes from really small to maybe, several centimeters. And it's just this huge grid work of holes. And I remember the first time I saw it, I was like, holy cow, in a fast food restaurant? And I did a little research, and it turned out, when they first started these restaurants, they partnered with this architectural firm, and somebody was an acoustics enthusiast, something. And I wish I don't have the detail on that. That's another Google thing, but that's what they did. And not only that, they did this weird thing where they put Klipsch 3-way speakers in a soffit above essentially where you order, like on the wall above that. There was 2 Klipsch speakers, Klipsch horn with the high horn and the mid horn and the bass woofer, and they're soffit mounted. So they're just like holes in the plywood. You just see the openings. And if you're an audio nerd, you know what that is. They're like, those are Klipsch speakers. It's the funniest thing. And they put them in, I don't think they're in every restaurant now, but the first so many restaurants they built, all of them have those speakers.
And they have a lot of curved surfaces in there too. There's a lot of like curvy walls and things that they do.
I don't know what you find in Melbourne, AP, with the cafe culture down there, but I'm finding more and more here. Cafes, especially sort of, let's call them the high-end ones, I'm more and more investing in acoustic treatment. And I'm no expert, but I'm kind of wondering, is that to encourage people to sit longer and stay longer, where you can actually sit and have a conversation and not have, other conversations drowning you out. I think it's nice that, some of these places are taking that into consideration.
Yeah, well, I mean, my mate Simon, I don't think we ever had him on the show, but he's been hospitality, casino designer, that kind of stuff. So he does a lot of restaurants, casinos and bits and bobs. He's actually living in Saudi Arabia as we speak on this massive project. But that's one of his things. It was always about acoustic treatment, because there's nothing worse than sitting in somewhere like an echo chamber, trying to have a meal and have a discussion with someone. You can't basically you can't hear what they're saying.
Sorry, what's that?
It makes me crazy.
What was that? Sorry.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's like a trend in LA. Like, let's say you can make the loudest restaurant. I'm like, what the hell's going on here? But I know it's just to turn over. I know they just want to turn people over. They don't want them comfortable.
Yeah.
They literally want you to be uncomfortable. And I get it for a quick turnover place, but some of these places in LA are so expensive, and it's not cheap food by any means, like a $7 croissant, you know? And you're like, well, I can't even talk to the waiter, or like it's so loud in here.
I think restaurants overlook acoustics all the time, and it's the most annoying thing.
Because they get away with it. I mean, I wish I knew who was in on these meetings, but I'm sure the architect's like, well, we can make this sound nice and it'll be an extra X. And they're like,
oh no,
nah.
like sound, who cares? It's like just like a film. The last thing they think about is sound. Everything. The last thing they think about is sound.
Yeah. It is one of my, it's one of my pet peeves, and it's one of those. I would love to start a small firm of just treating small restaurants, because like the big ones with the budgets will do what they do, and they've got firms involved. But the small to medium mom-pop, smaller businesses, or the ones that are run by restaurant groups and stuff, if they only knew better, and if they knew it didn't have to be $100,000 or $500,000.
Well, George, it's like that Thai restaurant that you took me to, and I was like, I looked up on the ceiling, and there was a bunch of floating clouds. I was like, holy cow! And
somebody probably was in there, as probably a musician, is my guess, eating in this restaurant. And they were like, dude, you got to do something, because it had a low, flat ceiling, and it was probably atrocious.
And they had the tables packed in there. Like, people were so close to each other.
So loud. Even with the panels, it's loud. But yeah, it's oh my gosh. If people realized it didn't have to cost a fortune, they would probably do it more. And it's just something, I just walked down 2 blocks in Santa Monica on Wilshire Boulevard and just popped in and out of restaurants. And I was just appalled, at all these new businesses, just how there was no attention at all.
Especially these days where more and more it's about cement floors, and they put in even more hard surfaces everywhere.
Yeah. I was in a Le Pain Quotidien. Is that how they say it? I don't know. It's a French chain of bakeries, and again, fancy. That's the brand. It's kind of upper crusty. It's not Starbucks. And as soon as they run the espresso machine or run the frothing of the milk, the other corner of the place, and you're just like, wait, what'd you say? You can barely. It was like insane. I literally left a review on Yelp. I was like, if that might be the only way you can get these restaurants to do anything, is just leave a lot of negative reviews saying, I can't come in here and have a conversation with my partner over anything in this place. I just want to leave.
It's interesting because a lot of the European restaurants are so busy, as in I'm talking about people coming in and out, but I'm talking about the actual furniture and things on walls and bars and bottles and all sorts of stuff. That it actually does work, once again, the diffuser concept, that you can sit there quite quietly in a really busy restaurant and have a conversation. We had one down the road from here, actually. Some French dudes opened up a restaurant. And you walk in there, it actually does feel like you're in a back street in Paris or something. But there's so much stuff around that it's perfect for sitting there and having a meal.
I always tell people, the more cluttered your room, the better. Clutter is your friend.
Yeah, clutter. The clutter diffuser. I can patent the clutter diffuser.
Yeah,
exactly.
That.
I wish there was more of that care in restaurant design, for sure. It's just, I know restaurant business is extremely difficult, and I'm sure everywhere it is, but especially here. So I know that's a part of it, but I wish it was cared for more. There actually is an app, though. There actually, believe it or not, is an app you can install called, and I will find it, Soundprint, I believe it is. Let me see if it's in my audio folder. And it is literally all about reviewing restaurant volume levels.
Oh, wow.
Wow.
God, is that popular?
That's pretty niche.
Oh, yeah.
It's called Soundprint. Here it is. See if it still works. These businesses just vaporize. You go into a restaurant, you open the app on your phone, and you just hit start, and it will monitor the room for 15 seconds. And then you can immediately report the restaurant as a noise violator, or just leave a review and just say, this was moderate, this was okay, or this was like severe noise levels. And then there's a huge database in here of restaurants, and some of them are like repeat offenders. They're just very loud category, And, it just depends on the stature of the restaurant. There's a place called Porto's, which is a super popular Cuban restaurant bakery, and it is just louder than sin in there. But there's also a line like 40 people long trying to get their stuff because it's just so popular, and they just want you to leave, clearly. Please take your food and get out of here.
Yeah, we want the table turned over.
Yeah, exactly.
Right. They should just put everything on a rotating thing, and then like an LED room, like live end, dead end. And if you stay there too long, then you end up in the live end where you can't have a conversation.
That's right.
It's like that's so funny. But another idea of a diffuser, if you think about it, an angled wall in a strange sense is a diffuser.
Right, because it's no longer allowing a sound wave to propagate back and forth in an axial way or longitudinal way, just like it
Right. It has many frequencies that it bounces, and
right.
each one at a different point. And yeah, it's kind of a diffuser in a
This is why a lot of people, when they're talking about building a booth, you'll hear there's always somebody in the forum, always somebody is like, make sure there's no parallel walls. And that's not wrong, but the reason why I don't design rooms that way generally is mathematically they're extremely unpredictable. So then it ends up just a lot of experimenting, trying to get it to sound good and just get rid of weird frequencies. Whereas if it's just a square, not a square, squares aren't really good actually. Rectangles though, like a shoebox size, is a lot easier to deal with. It's very predictable and we understand how to treat them. It's very easy to work with. So the more times you add more angles, the weirder it gets. The more, if you add another wall and make it a pentagon, far more difficult and hard to model. And
that's funny because I was always taught, like some angles, if they're too small, then they're insignificant. But I think it was at least an 11-degree angle. But in my studio, I don't know how scientific it was, but I even angled the vaulted ceiling.
Mm-hmm.
So I just, flayed the walls out by 10 degrees or 11 degrees, whatever that minimum was. And then the ceiling was angled. And I got one single parallel surface between the door and a smaller area opposite it because I couldn't avoid that. And I just piled on absorption on that opposite wall. But
how'd it work?
It worked out great. And it's like, it works really well for drums. And it's like bright and live, but not boinky and bouncy, It
doesn't go da da da.
Is that a technical word, boinky?
Yes.
You know how if you go to a stairwell and you clap your hands and you hear like boom and you hear so it doesn't do that. But yeah, I don't know that it's like sometimes it's just like just mess it up to be interesting. Just mess it up to make it not predictable.
Well, that's the thing. That's why some studios in the world are so renowned. It doesn't mean that they had some guy plug in everything into formulas and exhaustively compute out the room. And it's just sometimes it's just luck,
Yeah.
It's just the way the room was designed, the dimensions of the room. Like, what is it, Sun Records in Memphis?
Right, where they have the X where Elvis would stand and they have the spots where they would all stand.
And it's just like, this is where what mattered was it sounded really good when he stood here and the mic was here, and that's all they know.
Right, exactly.
Nobody's measuring that. They're just like, that's just, they got lucky, or they stumbled on it, or they experimented. But, that's how a lot of rooms were back then. Now there's a lot more acoustician science that goes into these rooms than then. But, there's a lot of fun luck that goes into it. If you have the time and the budget to experiment and the flexibility, it's really, really cool.
Or just go for the clutter diffuser, which we've just patented.
I'm down with that.
Well, that was fun. Is it over?
The Pro Audio Suite, with thanks to Tribooth and Austrian Audio, recorded using Source Connect, edited by Andrew Peters and mixed by Robbo. Got your own audio issues? Just ask Robbo.com. With tech support from George the Tech Whittam. Don't forget to subscribe to the show and join in the conversation on our Facebook group. To leave a comment, suggest a topic, or just say g'day, drop us a note at our website, proaudiosuite.com.